The slap landed so hard the room went silent. A dozen officers stared in shock as the young woman staggered back, palm on her cheek, eyes lowered. And then, 5 seconds later, the same general who struck her let out a fractured gasp of fear, stumbling as though the ground beneath him had suddenly vanished. No one knew what happened in those brief seconds, but everyone would remember it as the day a weak girl taught a legendary general the meaning of strength. General Marcus Hale had commanded battlefields for 25 years. Decorated, feared, unyielding, he was the last man anyone expected to lose control in front of his entire staff. But his temper had burned brighter with age, especially ever since the Defense Ministry assigned him a civilian, observational assistant. He didn't want help, he didn't need help, and he certainly didn't need a girl half his size shadowing him during strategic briefings. Her name was Arya Lane. She looked fragile, thin frame, soft voice, hair tied in an unassuming braid. She wore plain glasses, carried a notebook everywhere, and never raised her voice, even when Marcus barked at her. To him, she was the picture of weakness, a burden forced upon him by bureaucrats. Arya, however, had a patience that was almost unnerving. She wrote quietly, listened carefully, and never reacted to Marcus's explosive temper. She didn't flinch when he slammed fists on tables. Didn't shrink when he snapped at her. Didn't even blink when officers whispered that she would be gone within a week. Until the day everything changed. It was the morning of a high-stakes briefing about a long-ignored border village threatened by organized insurgents. The situation had shifted suddenly. Civilians were at risk, and the ministry wanted clarity. Arya, who had spent her nights gathering satellite data and cross-checking civilian routes, spoke up, softly but firmly. "Sir, your plan will leave the southern exit exposed. If the insurgents flank from the ridge, the villagers will be trapped." Her words shocked the room. Marcus's eyes hardened. "I didn't ask for your analysis," he growled. Arya swallowed. "Sir, I apologize. But the data indicates you're a civilian," Marcus snapped. "You don't get to contradict a general in front of his men." Before anyone could react, he struck her. The slap echoed across the room. And Arya fell silent, not in fear, but in something else entirely. 5 seconds passed. Arya's breathing steadied. She lifted her head. Her glasses sat crooked on her nose, but her eyes were calm in a way that made Marcus take an involuntary step back. "General Hale," she said quietly. "Sit down." Laughter rippled among officers. A general, sit because a girl asked. But then Marcus's legs buckled. He collapsed into the chair behind him, gasping, clutching at the armrests with trembling fingers. Panic flashed across his face. What did you?" Arya didn't move. "I warned you yesterday about your blood pressure spikes. Your arrhythmia was worsening. You ignored the medical report." Marcus blinked through confusion. "What? You struck me with your right arm. The sudden exertion triggered your condition. You have approximately 40 seconds before you lose consciousness." The officers froze. Arya stepped forward, her voice steady, controlled, almost frighteningly precise. "Can someone bring the emergency medical kit?" Lieutenant Cooper rushed to obey. Arya knelt beside Marcus, checking his pulse, lowering his head, guiding his breathing. Every motion was confident, experienced. Marcus could barely speak. How did you know?" Arya didn't look at him. "Because I've seen it before." Her hands moved with calm urgency as she administered the emergency medication, helping stabilize his heartbeat. Marcus's breath slowed. His color returned. Silence settled across the room. Finally, Marcus whispered, "Who are you?" Arya met his gaze for the first time since he'd hit her. There was no anger in her expression. No resentment. Just truth. "I was a combat medic in the Special Rescue Division," she said softly. 3 years ago, my unit was ambushed during an extraction mission. 29 soldiers made it out alive, because I refused to leave them. But I was discharged after my injuries left me unable to serve in the field." The room stiffened. Arya continued, voice steady but heavy. "My commanders recommended me for internal strategy and risk assessment. The ministry didn't assign me here to observe, General. They assigned me because they believed you needed someone who understood the cost of a single overlooked detail." Marcus lowered his eyes. For the first time in decades, he felt small. The rest of the briefing proceeded with a strange quiet. Marcus listened to Arya's analysis. He didn't interrupt, didn't argue, didn't dismiss. Her plan, though unexpected, was brilliant. It not only protected the village but also cut off the insurgents' supply route entirely. The operation was executed that same night. It saved every single civilian. Hours later, as dawn rose over the valley, Marcus approached Arya outside the command post. He looked older, humbled, stripped of pride. "I owe you my life," he said quietly. "And more than that, I owe them," he gestured toward the rescued villagers, "their lives too." Arya didn't smile. "I only did what I was assigned to do, sir." Marcus shook his head. "No, you did far more. You reminded me what leadership is supposed to be." He extended a hand, not in authority, but in respect. Arya hesitated, then shook it. Over the weeks that followed, something remarkable happened. Marcus changed. He listened more, observed more, asked for Arya's insight on every operation. And for the first time in many years, his decisions became not just tactical, but humane. The officers noticed too. They no longer saw a weak girl. They saw the quiet force who had saved a general's life, prevented a disaster, and reminded an entire command unit of the strength hidden behind humility. And in private moments, Marcus would admit, even if only to himself, that the slap he delivered out of arrogance was the moment that saved him from the arrogance that had consumed him.